This is Casey Hendrickson on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel, your breaking news and weather station.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I want to thank our sponsors, R&B Car Company, your headquarters for your post-apocalyptic vehicle needs. Again, go to rbcarcompany.com. Well, been a busy day on the Indiana side of things with all of the press conferences and moving into phase 2 for the vast majority of the state of Indiana. Of course, Mayor Mueller in South Bend wasn't very happy about all of that. But for those of you on the Michigan side of the border, things have also been interesting for just a little while. We have State Representative Brad Paquette from the 78th District joining us. Brad, how you doing?
Hey, Casey. Appreciate you bringing me in. I'm doing all right, considering I've been definitely on the phone for the last 4 weeks straight speaking with constituents and hearing their stories. But being across the border, I've got a lot of folks who are envying you guys as of now.
Well, I mean, we had a pretty busy day today, but you guys have had one whale of a show the past several weeks. And yeah. I guess the first thing that I would have to ask you, Representative, is how on earth did all of these people who are not happy with the governor show up in the Capitol yesterday when Politico wrote an article just the beginning of the week that nobody in Lansing doesn't like her?
Well, I would attribute it to the fact, so I have a deep reverence for our form of government, representative government, and we as state representatives, state senators, what we've been doing lately, we get pretty much the executive order breakdown the day of, and we have people calling in asking all these different questions, and our sole job is pretty much to point them to the governor's constituent line, and you don't really get any answers about them. So when people feel like they don't have a voice through their representative and their state senator, then obviously they're going to be very, very ticked off.
Well, and I've seen some confusion about the stay-at-home order versus the emergency order. Could you shed some light on what makes them different so that way people kind of understand what the differences and nuances are of the two orders?
Yeah, so the state of emergency is in statute. The governor declared that she cited two certain statutes, one from 1945 and one from 1976. And she always can have the power constitutionally to issue executive orders. However, the executive orders that she has been issuing have stemmed from her power from the state of emergency. So the stay-at-home order is set to expire. She just renewed it, set to expire on May 15th. Now, this is what deems certain businesses essential and non-essential, and also has certain requirements that if you go out, it must be for certain reasoning. So there's a little convolution there between the two, but it's definitely there's confusion in it all. And so it's definitely something that is just added to the quandary.
So the House passed a resolution. This is your house again. The House passed a resolution that restricted the governor's state of emergency declaration to 14 days. Now, she's vowing to veto that, and I'm assuming that you do not have the votes to overthrow that. Would that be correct? Or to overturn that?
Unfortunately, we don't.
Okay. So what was the point of the resolution restricting her state of emergency declarations to 14 days? Why did you guys feel that was important to do?
We felt that was important to do because in the legislature, we've had no power. Like I was mentioning before, when people call in and they expect their voice to be heard or their story to be heard, they think we can do something about it. And in the state of emergency, we can't. The governor does not need to consult us at all whatsoever. Like I mentioned before, executive orders were issued. There was no consultation as to what we've been hearing from our constituents. I represent 90,000 people, and being here in Southwest Michigan is very different than it is in Southeast Michigan. So we stuck a flag in the sand because people have been calling on us to get their voices heard, and these are individuals that they're not political. They didn't even know that state government really existed or had any impact until it started infringing on their livelihoods. And they're like, well, what's going on? I'm not allowed to do this. Who do I reach out to? Who's my voice? And when they reached out to their representatives and state senators and they realize that they have no voice in that outlet, they become very, very angry. And so I've been literally on the phone the last 4 weeks with folks. My phone dies 2-3 times a day, and folks I'm hearing their stories. And when I'm not able to do anything for them and get their voice heard through this, because of the state of emergency, which provides so much authority for the governor. She cited this statute from 1945, that allows her to renew these states of emergency to give her this type of authority. And that's something that is deeply disconcerting.
So basically, she's claiming that she has the authority to just continuously have a state of emergency. So she has, I don't want to use the word dictatorial control, but she's got tremendous power that she can wield if she continues to do this for as long as she essentially wants. And that was the main concern behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, we're speaking with Michigan State Representative Brad Paquette. He represents the 78th District, which most of you on the Michigan side of the border in Michigan are a part of. At least most of our Michigan listeners are a part of, I should say. So, Representative, we've also got the governor going out there and saying, look, you guys stop being weak in World War II. I'm paraphrasing her, but this is essentially what she has said. Stop being weak. Stop being soft. In World War II, people made sacrifices. You can make some sacrifices to save lives, too. What is your response when you hear the governor of a state say these things?
So you're cutting out just a little bit there, Casey. Could you repeat that last bit? I think you're chopping out a little bit. I'm not quite sure if that's my connection or yours.
When you have the governor of the state basically saying, stop being weak. In World War II, people made sacrifices. You can make sacrifices also. As a state representative, when you hear a governor say those types of things, what's your response to that?
I think that the narrative out there is all powerful, and so one thing I've been very concerned about is when that narrative is shaped there, and a person that stands out and questions what's going on, they get told, well, you don't care about lives. This is a war that we have going on, and that just contributes to that narrative. So a lot of my colleagues, myself included, when we question or we reach out or we point to data that might say otherwise, especially with how diverse and different the state of Michigan, with 10 million people in it, we have the vast majority are not within my district or in Southwest Michigan or in the Upper Peninsula. When we have that happen, a lot of individuals that buy into that narrative will then attack relentlessly any individual who asks a question. And I think that is very concerning because a lot of my colleagues are, when you stick your neck out and you're like, hey, well, how about these cases and how about these hospitals that are going bankrupt right now, and how about these people who are sitting home not going in because their procedures are not deemed essential or important or urgent. These are things that need to be brought up in representative government. Opposing perspectives must be seen and debated and consulted, and this is something that isn't happening. So with those kinds of comments, it is very difficult for me to not get frustrated and try to go down into the mud as well, because I'm trying to be a voice for my people, and the voice for my people is in opposition to what's going on in the other side of things. So it's definitely concerning.
Now, I've been getting a lot of messages from people in the Michigan side. Some are in your district who now their family business is destroyed forever. Some of them are farmers, hog farmers, not going to reopen, multi-generational farms, things like that just can't survive, and they're livid with the governor over this. So the House now votes to authorize the speaker to sue the governor. What do you all hope can come from this, and is this just a political move? Does it actually have the ability to have any progress, any outcome that would be seen as desirable by House Republicans?
Yeah, a lot of this, because what we did the other day and what we've noticed is, so landscapers, she's slowly identifying some folks who have loud voices, right? Landscapers came out in droves, construction workers did too, so she's kind of throwing them a bone. But there are a lot of little folks falling through the cracks. Yeah, I've been speaking with so many people who have been crying and losing everything. They're literally not getting their voice heard because they don't have large groups who can speak for them or a representative who can do so effectively as well. So it seems like the governor does listen to lawsuits. We have been doing everything that we can to work with the governor and to try to be a voice of the people, to bring about another perspective, because what my people want is proportionate response to the threat. And that's something that with the lawsuit, hopefully our case is built up enough and it shows how much we have been trying to work with the governor. But right now, even with our voting to not extend the state of emergency, her executive orders do have full force of law, but we're questioning the legality of these executive orders, because a lot of them are quite arbitrary. And those folks that haven't had a voice in Lansing or don't have lobbyists, the ones who are falling through the cracks, I sincerely hope that the courts are able to see that some of these executive orders are overstepping their reach and are arbitrary in nature.
Has Governor Whitmer ever contacted the legislature, whether the House or the Senate, that you're aware of, and kind of explained why people couldn't buy car seats and why you couldn't have motorboats but rowboats and things like that were okay? Has she ever explained some of those things that just don't seem to make any sense?
So her contact is with our leadership, so our speaker. I've been on a handful of calls with some of her staff, but little to no communication. I've called the governor's constituent line myself as well, and I haven't gotten a response back. That is something that also exasperates the situation for me, because it's my first term. I'm not in leadership, but it's definitely, I feel like a peon in the matter, and that's really, really how it is right now.
And again, State Representative Brad Paquette, District 78 in Michigan. Okay, I got one more thing for you, and then I'll let you kind of finish with anything that you feel is important business that the people need to know about. The President of the United States actually tweeted about the situation that happened with the protesters there in Michigan, which apparently scared a lot of your Democratic colleagues. They were pretty nervous, wearing bulletproof vests, they said. But the president tweeted out, he goes, "The governor of Michigan should give a little and put out the fire. These are very good people, but they are angry. They want their lives back safely. See them, talk to them, make a deal." Is that going to have any impact, do you think, on Governor Whitmer? And what do you have to say to the President of the United States, who's finally weighing in on this directly and standing up for the people that are showing up in these protests in Lansing, Michigan?
Yeah, so that's definitely an interesting question to speculate on what the governor would do there, because I sincerely thought, after we had been trying to voice all of our constituent concerns and the floods of people who are calling in describing how they can operate safely, and they're deemed non-essential, but they can still operate safely, like they can be building a house and be in an empty structure and carry on throughout their day. And I honestly believe she was going to relent and yield there, and if she did, I think she would have had just sincere respect all around the state, but she did not. And so with that, and with Trump weighing in, I really do hope that she is able to listen. I was there, obviously, at the protest. There was an intensity to it. I can definitely say that. When one of my colleagues and I, we went out to go speak to the protesters, and as we went out there, folks began yelling at us, and obviously folks who are armed yelling at you is an intense situation, but these individuals didn't know where to vent their frustration. They didn't know that the House and the Senate have majority Republicans. We're trying to be their voice. But that's something that I really hope that she doesn't just dismiss these folks who are crying out, because their liberties have been infringed upon immensely. And especially here in my district, we look across the governmental side of the fence, and the grass does seem greener, especially earlier on as landscapers were able to operate there, and a lot of other folks who are operating. I have people who say, when we're shopping here in Michigan, like, they only allow a certain amount of folks. You're forced to wear a mask, but then you go across state line, and it's like complete freedom. And it's very, very restrictive here in comparison. So I really hope that it doesn't exasperate things. As you know, things have become so political, and media headlines are taken. I actually saw your Facebook little poll there about a random dog. 96% of people trust a random dog. Media.
Yeah, I thought
that, but again. Go ahead.
I thought that was kind of funny. It was a meme that I posted that somebody else had done about who do you trust more, the media or a random dog, and they put the shifty eyes on the dog, and it was like 96% still believe the dog over the media. All right, so last question, Representative. Since you're on the border with Indiana, and I just recently moved back from Michigan to the Indiana side, Today, Governor Holcomb in Indiana opens up the vast majority of the state, except for 3 counties. Obviously, the mayor of South Bend not happy about it, but there's 3 counties where we've still got some issues with the virus. Would you like to see Governor Whitmer look across the border and say, you know what, we have some counties in Michigan that are bad, but most of the state is okay. Maybe open up some of those places responsibly while still continuing to model after Indiana for the places that are still struggling with the virus. Would that be acceptable to you?
Certainly, that's what we've been pushing, is a regionalized approach, kind of with different tiers. The southeastern part of the state, obviously, being the highest tier that needs the most restrictive practices. But allowing counties and locals, especially local experts and locals who are obviously adults and can carry on safely, to determine that themselves with their county. I think that is the best approach possible, especially taking into consideration how much availability there is in hospitals and how many cases there are and all the testing. Taking all that into consideration, there needs to be a regionalized approach, and that's something that she has mentioned. We've been hammering that message for the last month as well. But yes, that would definitely be advantageous.
Well, again, Michigan State Representative Brad Paquette, he's with the 78th District. We do appreciate the time, and thank you for reaching out to us and wanting to talk to the people out there in your constituency that are in our audience. We do appreciate it.
Casey, I appreciate you taking the time, sir.
All right, thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.